Okay, um, here's another game. It's one of my own games. It's slightly different to some of the stuff I've put on before because this isn't actually a live game. This is a review of a game I played this morning. It was an interesting game. I was black. My opponent was white. As you can see, I had a 3-stone handicap, so my opponent was 3 stones stronger than me. It was a little bit daunting when I saw that board come up, but I kind of went, okay, you've got the 3 stones to balance out your skill. Stick with this and don't be intimidated. It's often easy, or certainly is for me, when I play stronger players with a 3 or 4 stone handicap to think, oh, they're just going to eat me alive here. But it's not the case. The handicap, it really is there to balance the skills and abilities of the 2 players and make sure that both of them have to play at the edge of their ability. And actually that's what happened in this game. So let's see the moves. So first of all, white came down to the lower right, didn't go on the start point, went higher, and that's saying that he's interested in a rapid development out of that corner. The corner's not so important. Otherwise, he or she should have played on the 3-4, on the 4-4 or the 3-4, but saying I want the outside. I don't want to get shut in. I did think about whether I could play in here, but actually in the event I decided to use the advantage. You know, one of the things that you have to balance when you've got a high handicap game, it's the 3-stone handicap game in this place, is how much do you attack your opponent, who's clearly got a higher level of go skill than you have, and how much do you consolidate the advantage you have with the handicap. You know, the handicap in this case is worth 30, 40, maybe even 50 points on the board at the start, a 3-stone handicap. And so I decided initially that I would just actually consolidate the left side. So white takes the right, approaches the top right. I didn't like this move because then white would do something like this, and then white is actually starting to get a spread that's almost equal to mine, and it's only the third or fourth move of the game. This doesn't feel right to me. So what I did instead was I actually approached white's corner. AI doesn't like this move, but it thinks I should have gone in on R3, but we shall see. So white spread out on the outside, saying, well, that's fine, you can have the little corner if you like, but I'm going to have the outside because that's where the rest of your stones are, and I want to build some strength for an attack. I attached. I expected, slightly naively, that white would hane here and that I would draw back, but in the event, white cut inside. It's a move I'm familiar with, so I cut on the outside and white descended. I wasn't happy at this point because I'd clearly walked into a trap of my own devising, so I ataried on the outside and white extended. Then I pushed into then I connected. Why did I connect? Let me see that again. I think I have to connect. If I don't connect there, white cuts me into 3. So I connected, and white turned and caught that black stone. So that black stone is now dead. It can't escape. So I pushed into the corner. The reason for that is that if white doesn't respond, then black can come out here and gain 3 liberties against white's 2. So white hane'd, I connected, and white took the stone. So now white has got a good 2-eyed living group here, and black, for black's exchange, has got a wall here. But the wall's slightly problematic because it's got this white stone wedged up against it, and it's a bit vulnerable here and here to being overlapped. So I came out to try and do something about that white stone. I don't think this was a good move with hindsight. I think it would have been better at M4, but that's what I did. And then white made a position. White's then saying, well, I've got these points here, so I'm just going to build this out and make a big area of territory on this side. So I gave some defense to my stone on the top right. I didn't want the top right stone to be overwhelmed or overshadowed by this space. Let's get rid of the pen marks. And white came out. You can see what's happening here is that white is actually using these stones here to put pressure on these black stones here, but also at the same time building this even bigger. That's now a lot of points. So I came in. I thought, this is I can't let that get that big, so I'll jump in. But white was a skilled player, so white descended to put to give liberties to these T groups and to put some pressure on this group, which has just very bad shape. I moan to you guys about empty triangles, but there's an empty triangle. Black has very poor shape here. So I come out and white descends, and the reason for the descent now is to perfectly separate these stones from this stone and that one out there. So this black group is now pretty much on its own. I came out trying to make a link here, and white came out, not only further isolating these stones, but also starting to put some pressure on this stone. And so white had in mind that this group simply wouldn't live. So I descended once to try and make some shape, and white stopped me developing in that area. Great moves by white, really great moves by white. So I pushed down and white blocked, and actually here you can see, lovely move. This creates a tiger mouth. This stone here means that I can't play there, so I've got no eye space in that area. So I strengthened up this stone on the left hand side because I wanted to put this group here under attack, and white strengthened up and connecting. When we talk about shapes, and I know I sometimes talk about shapes, and I will do a piece on shapes, that's called a two stone wall with a one space extension, and it's an unbreakable shape. Black simply cannot break through that. And so all of this white wall is connected to that stone, and that really means it's got access in this direction to the outside, and that puts further pressure on this group here. Let's take that out. So I played here. So what I'm trying to do is actually build some strength on the lower side and isolate this white group and use the power of this black wall against this group. That was my plan. So white, because he was smart, read the plan immediately and put some more pressure on the black group to seal it in. Remember, this group is already alive, the white group in the corner, and so black is now looking a bit shaky. I was nervous at this point, tried to make some shape, but that gave white another shape move. And now I hope you can see that this black group here, this whole chain of stones here, is under really severe attack. It's got no eyes. There are no eyes there at all. White has got a pretty thick wall here facing it off. It's got a living group in the corner here, and it's developing strength here because it's on the outside. And what we mean by the outside is because white is on the outside, it's got liberties all the way down here that it can gain, whereas black, because it's on the inside, can't gain liberties here and can't gain liberties here. So white's got the outside, and this is very important in this kind of fight. This kind of and that's what's going on in the game. So I tried to break out. I tried to force my way past this white wall here. And white blocked. I came back. White cut. And that cutting stone now absolutely isolates the black group. Unless I can take that cutting stone. And by the black group, I mean this entire group here. All of these. At this point, I realised that I'd got myself into real trouble here. It was a bad opening, and I did at this point actually consider a resign game, but decided no, let's fight on. We've got a big advantage. You expected this. White is a stronger player. He's reading slightly deeper than me. Let's go with it. So I then decided that I had to sacrifice all of the black stones on the inside, give them up. I can't save you anymore. You're caught between this white outside wall, this living inside wall, and this solid wall at the top. So I Atari on the outside. It means white descends, and I Atari. Oh, I made one turn on the inside, which was aiming to push out here, white block, and then black cut. It was a bit hopeless, so white simply connected. So then I knew that these stones, the inside stones, were dead, so I just had to get something out of their death. So I descended here, white descended, I descended again, white has to descend because white cannot let black play here and Atari the 3 stones, because everything would then live and this group would be in trouble. So white descended. So I descended again. This is really signing off on the death warrant of these stones, all of them, because now white is solid all the way around. So after white descended again, white turns, and that's it. They're done. Those black stones have nowhere to go. And if we count this area up, white has got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30, 32, 34, 36, 38, 40, 42, 44, 46, 48, 50 points. Can I turn on Analyze Game? No, it gets us to the end. Let's get back to where we were. Sorry about this, folks. That's where we were. So I push once here in an attempt to shift the attack to these stones. That's my only chance of breaking out. My only chance of breaking out of this white wall. It's the only weak spot. So white makes that move. I play here. White blocks. I cut. Notice that these 2 stones have got 3 liberties, and this white group here have also got 3 liberties, but white simply took them out of commission. The game is looking worse for black. It's looking really bad for black at this point, because white has got an almost 50-point corner. So I protect my cutting point, and white comes up. That puts more pressure on these 2, who are what we call very thin. They're protecting quite a large area of the board, but they're not very well connected to each other, whereas white is very solidly connected here. So I wedge, and the wedge was my only chance to try and get some eye shape for this group here. So I wedge, and white blocks, and I back off. Now notice that there are 2 cutting points here. There's a cutting point above and below, and I'm saying to white, which stones do you like? And white, quite rightly, because I think if white had connected here and then this cutting point doesn't work for does it work? Yes, it works as a ladder. Mistake by white. He was feeling pretty confident at this point. White connected that way, so I cut that way. So white cut, so I descended. And white descended inside. These guys have got 2 liberties, white's got 3. But I can turn with an Atari. White extends to gain liberties. And then I shut down white because my black stones here have got 3 liberties. 1, 2, 3. This group's got loads of liberties at the moment. And critically, white here has only got 2. So those 2 white stones are going to die. It means I've got an eye. White plays there. I play there to make sure that the stones die, because now, after that move, we're down to 2 liberties each, and whoever plays first will win. So I take those 2 stones out, and white takes that one out. Then I strengthen this lower left side. I was still slightly worried here, but not too worried, because I could make an eye here or an eye here. This group has 2 eyes. It's alive unless white makes a move. I wasted a move on that later. So, and then white pushes out here to cap this group, to shut this group in. This was a nonsensical move by me. I already had 2 eyes. I didn't need to make that, but fortunately white responded, so I got away with it. Once I got those 2 eyes, I could play this, and I played again, which was actually even more nonsensical. Was it nonsensical? No, I needed to ensure that eye, and white approached the corner, and I did a high approach. A high defence. White comes out, and then I cut. Now this cut actually becomes vital later in the game. Remember that this black group, because of these exchanges, is unconditionally alive. It's got 2 eyes. It's got at least 2 eyes. There's 1 eye here, and there's another one there. It's got 2 eyes. When these 2 stones die, they leave an eye behind. That's what's going on there. So this group, and that includes these stones here, is unconditionally alive. The black stones inside are dead, but that cut means that I'm running out towards my corner here. So white defends. Why does white defend? Well, because if white doesn't defend there right now, if black cuts at A, white dies. Actually does die. Because a black cut at A, white would Atari, black would kill, which means all of these black stones would come back to life. So that would be impossible for white. So white has to connect, which means I then get this Atari on this side to try and get this group out of its hole and get it back into the game. Remember, and I've talked about this before, when your stones are shut in by your opponent, they can no longer participate in the game. It's why it's bad to get shut into the corner. It's because you may have a few points in the corner, but you have no further influence on the game. That's why it's much more valuable most of the time to get the wall, to have the wall on the outside, because even though your opponent has got some points in the corner, that wall is exerting an influence. It's still contributing to the flow of play, whereas the stones in the corner have just got points, and that's it, nothing more. So it's really vital for me that this group doesn't get shut in. So white plays there. I Atari white, and white comes out. I then have to guard against this cut by white, because if I don't protect A here, white cuts, which is an Atari, I connect, and then white connects back and shuts this group in. It shuts it inside. So I defend, and white jumps out. And the reason for the jump out is white is now pretty confident and wants to still connect these stones, these white stones up in this area, all of these here, to these here, and to maintain the outside, to keep the black group shut in. So I jump up. That's what I'm trying to do here, is I'm trying to give some sort of shape or protection to the black stones here, to try and keep these black stones alive. White immediately sees what I'm trying to do, as you would expect, and separates them. So really, I hope you can see that, you know, this black stone is dying, and this one is already dead, and so white is now laying claim to this area of the board. in addition to this area of the board. This is not looking good for black. This is really not looking good for black. I decide I have to abandon this stone, that it can't be saved, but I do want to save these, and so I use a kusumi, a diagonal jump, which stays connected to try and get these stones out. White turns to complete the shut-in of by connecting these stones together, to complete the shut-in of the black group, and I attach. What I'm trying to threaten with the attachment is to attack in some way this white stone, using the power of 3 to try and build a shape on that side. Because this black group here is alive, the black group along the line of 12 are this group here. You know, this group hasn't got much territory. It's not doing much work, the white group. So I play here. White Han is on this side. And so I push down. Now the push down is really important. The push down is important because what I'm trying to do is make a connection between these two stones. And it's not a connection that will save them, because actually white can wedge between it, but it means that these stones, if the connection works, will get cut. And that's what I was after. I was after cutting these white stones. I'm still fighting in this game. I'm still fighting, even though I'm so far behind. I'm still fighting to get back and trying to make use of the fact that I've got this big lower left side corner, and that I may be able to do something with. So white connects on that side. I don't think I have to do anything else in there but other than that move. Now that kusumi, that diagonal jump, means that these stones get out. These stones are not directly connected, but they can cut the white stones that are here. And so this white group now is isolated. And actually that is potentially a game changer for black. If I can keep this under attack, then all of the black stones here start to work together. White wedges, black cuts, white pushes and ataris. Note the atari on the diagonal. Sometimes these aren't easy to see for beginners, but this group here has only got one liberty left, so black must connect. And then white attacks these two stones. So I run, and white chases, and I run, and white chases, and I run, and white then connects, ataring this one. So I must not lose that stone. Can you see that if I lose that stone, if I allow white to play at this point here, then the white outside wall is connected to the white inside wall, and the white inside wall is alive because these black stones are dead, and so everything white would come alive. And I'm trying to keep this group isolated. So I connect, and then white starts to attack a different target. White realizes that this group here, the white group, is cut, but the weak part of the cutting shape is this group here. Black is alive here, solid here. This is solid. This is alive. The weak part is this. So white targets the weak part. At this point, and this happens to all of us, I had this mad idea that I could somehow put this white group under attack, but I can't, and I don't want to go into it now, but there is a fantastic little book by a guy called Richard Hunter that I really recommend to anybody who's past their first kind of stage of go, called Counting Liberties and Winning Capturing Races. You can maybe still get a physical copy, but you can certainly get it as an ebook. And it's fantastic. And actually one of the rules in that is that a group with an eye fighting a group without an eye will win that fight. And so white does have an eye, and white has an eye because of these two stones here that can't escape. They've got no way out, so white's got an eye. So the black group here doesn't have any eyes, and the white group here does have eyes. And so white's going to win. But I got this idea in my head that it could, so it was a crazy move. And white, quite rightly, ignored my move, said, "You're crazy, man. That's just not going to happen, is it? You're not going to get out there." And that was dangerous for me, because that put him one move ahead in this fight with this weak black group, part of the surrounding circle. And if this black group dies, then everything white on the board is connected to everything else, and it really is a resigned game. Because remember, again, one of the things that I hopefully keep repeating to you is that the fundamental strategy of Go, the highest level strategy of Go, above all others, is keep your own stones connected and cut your opponent into small groups. Because small groups are weak. They have to live locally. They have to expend a lot of energy to try and make two eyes. They will often get shut in. Small groups are weak. Big groups are strong because of liberties. Keep your own stones connected, cut your opponent into small pieces, and then chop up, chew and digest those pieces. Okay, so that was white's move. I'm suddenly in trouble again. I'm going, God, this guy is outplaying me at every turn. So I attach here. He turns to ensure. You can see it here, I'm sure. This encirclement. This is the encirclement of the black group, and the black group is here. So I'm starting to get encircled and about to die. But I've got one play in my hand, which is this move. This move is aiming to cut either at A or B. And a cut at either of these positions would either kill this stone, or if not kill this stone, kill this group. Let's see. White comes here, making a tiger mouth. And because of the tiger mouth, it means I can't play there. But I can play here and cut that stone. It also means that white has to respond locally. Because if white responds here, then black kills here. And that's a great result for black. If white responds, I don't know, here, which I think is what happened in the game, then black takes this stone. Let's see what happened. Oh, if white fails to respond in that area, if white does something like this, then black gets what we call a snapback. So black throws itself into Atari. White takes the stone, and notice that even though this one's got one liberty, it's an Atari, and these two have got one liberty, they're an Atari. It's black's move, and here comes the snapback, and so the shape snaps back, as it's known. And again, that's a fantastic result for black. Everything black on the board, with the exception of this area in the lower right, is then connected. So let's go back to the game. So I played this move, and white connected to avoid that snapback, which meant that I could Atari that stone. White blocked here, threatening to force in, and I make an eye. Now, this black group has now got two eyes. It's got one eye here, and with the death of that stone, it's got a second eye. So this black group, bless its cotton socks, is now unconditionally alive. It's not in great shape. It's completely surrounded by white stones, but it's alive, and at this point in the game I considered that a bit of a triumph. So the white wedges in, which is trying to take that eye away. So I connect, ensuring that eye, and white then says, okay, that's fair enough, but I'm going to wipe out the corner. I'm going to wipe out this stone here. I would love at this stage to cut here. I'd love to, but I simply don't. I can't see how it would work, because white would just chase me down and attack here, or push out and catch that stone in that direction. So first of all, I make a move in this corner. This is going back to my forlorn hope that I can somehow damage this group. This was what we call magical thinking or wishful thinking. I just needed to. I couldn't leave it alone. I kept saying, there must be a way, there must be a way, there must be a way of getting that, but there wasn't. And so white just makes a bamboo joint, goes, come on, man. I push in to make him close, and then I wedge from the other side to make him take. White's now got one eye and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 liberties on the outside, 7, 8 liberties, 9 liberties, and black has got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 liberties. You know, this is a hopeless fight. Black cannot win that fight. It's ridiculous. But I was able then to connect these stones out to this and out to this group, and so strengthen the lower left-hand side. I was still hoping to get that there was some way that I could get through this game. And white did respond, because white didn't want me to try and make an eye here. And I descended, and white played that way. I played this. White had to defend, because otherwise this black move makes 2 eyes for black, and black comes alive, and that would have then killed white, because 2 eyes versus 1 eye, 2 eyes wins, and white takes the eye away. It's done and dusted. It really is done and dusted. I should have left it alone, but there you go. We'll get moments of madness in Go. So I'm now looking at the board and thinking, what's left here? I've got this little group here that's got about 5 points. I've got this little group here that's got about 3 points. White has got a 50-point corner here and a 40-point side, 90 points on the board. Oh, and this corner as well, let's not forget in that one, that's another 25 points or so. And I've got this solid lower side, but this thin left side here. This is the gap between this stone and this stone is way too big, and I would expect at any point white's going to come piling in somewhere like here to knock this stone out, knock this stone out of commission as soon as white gets an opportunity. Let's go back. So I play here to force the matter. I clearly haven't left it alone. And white says, well, you're not going to get any eyes. What's the point in that? And so I play here. I go back to where I was. Moves like this aren't terrible if your opponent responds. If they're centre, they're terrible if you play them. Your opponent goes, yeah, not interested, mate, and they're going to play somewhere else. Okay. So I play here. Now what this is doing, this stone here on e7 really has its sights on that cut. It really does. That's where I want to play, because now if I cut, if white Ataris from this side, like that, black can run down to this stone. Let's just show how that would happen. If black Ataris, if black cuts here, and white Ataris from this side, black connects to this stone here and becomes strong. If black comes out this side and white comes this way, black pushes down and can meet this stone, and so this white group here gets into trouble. And white, because he's a smart player, of course, saw exactly what I was trying to do and said, no way, Jose, and made a tiger mouth to protect that cutting point. He made this tiger mouth to protect that cutting point. So I wedged at the cutting point. It's not wedged, it's called a nudge. It's a nozoki in Japanese. It's a nudge. I nudged at the cutting point, said, well, you know, if you don't fix that right now, I'm going to nudge in there, and that's going to cause real problems for this group here, because if there's a black stone sitting in there, then this group's under attack again. So I nudged and white connected, and then I descended. I wasn't unhappy because that descent really helps build this area of territory. It's not enough, but at least it would mean I would get out of this game with sort of my dignity intact, which I was hoping to be able to do. And white just said, yeah, that's all right. I'm going to take out your corner. Make sure nothing bad can happen there. Make sure this group can't have any influence. I'm way ahead on the board. The game is over. Let's stop this fight now. I didn't want to get invaded in the corner. It was pure gote, purely defensive move. I thought, okay, the only thing I've got left on this board of any value is the lower left. Maybe if I hold on to the lower left, white's going to beat me by 20 or 30 points rather than 50 or 60 or even 70 points. So I defended that corner. And white pushed out here. Now, I think this, for the first time in the game, white made an error. And I think this was greed or hubris or, you know, I'm so far ahead, I'm just going to kick this guy around now. Because he put that stone too far out. The relationship between that stone and this stone is too wide. It's called an elephant eye, so I went slam behind it. So he came down, so I blocked. He cut, and I made a kosomi to connect this stone to that one, and connect out. He then cut. I had to connect. I couldn't lose that stone. And he made a shape. I forced him to connect by doing that, and then I descended. And he descended. And so I descended on the other side so that he couldn't turn. This will be familiar, Ash, to you, because when we did a review of your game with invasions, I talked about stopping your opponent making a base on the edge. So we're closing white in, because this white group here is now under quite severe attack. It's got one, oh, let's go to the numbers, let's take that out. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4 liberties to fight with. That's not a lot. The black group on this side has got a load of liberties, and black's pretty strong on the left of that group. So this white group is under now severe attack. That's what I mean when my opponent made a mistake here. He kind of went, the game's done. Let's just kick black around a bit. So white descended. So then I ensured that white couldn't make any more liberties on the left hand side. So it's white's liberties here against black's liberties here. And white wedged, and the reason for the wedge is white intended to take my eyes away. They were the eyes of this black group, and that means that eventually that cannot become an eye. This space here can't become an eye because of it's got 2 cutting points on it. But I decided to ignore that and make sure that white could get no further liberties on the left hand side. So white still got 4 liberties, and notice that, you know, this black group, although it's enclosed, has got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, let's say 10 liberties. A great deal more than white has. So white turned, black descended, white made this shape. This shape is the same shape that we saw up here. It makes a snapback. If black ignores, or if black does something like descend here, here comes the snapback. White throws into Atari, black takes the stone, and then it snaps back, and white's all connected, and everything black here is dead. That's a snapback again. So after white made that shape, black couldn't do anything but connect, and then white made this shape. This shape is one of the we haven't done living and dead shapes inside your opponent yet. They're called nakade, and I will do a video on those at some point. So white ensured that black could only make 1 eye in there, but in the event, because black has all of these outside liberties here, these shared liberties, and notice that white cannot actually take these liberties away without jeopardizing this group, because these are all the liberties that this group needs to fight against this one. This is quite a complex fight. This black group and this black group are fighting against this white group, but white can't easily take these liberties without killing this group first. So white made that shape, and I simply took the liberties on the outside. The move here, this move by white, the original move, was an overplay, and the answer to the overplay was chop it off behind with that stone. So I think white at that point recognises what's going on and said, okay, to hell with that. That was an overplay, but I'm still ahead on the board. I'm going to eat some more of your territory. The game was almost over, and part of me desperately wanted to kind of go, oh look, honestly, don't beat me up anymore, and to block white somewhere like this, hold on to the territory that I'd got. But I was behind on the game. I wasn't going to win. That would just be minimise the humiliation. So I went, okay, I think that's a bit ambitious. A bit like that move was ambitious. That move was ambitious. So I made a Kosumi to cut it off behind. He didn't want me. Obviously, white doesn't want black to do this and cut it off behind. So white backed off. And black kept pushing. And white backed off. And black kept pushing. And white first threatened this cutting point. The cutting point here behind those stones. So black had to connect. Notice that these are securely connected through a Kosumi, a diagonal connection. So white stopped black cutting those off. Black haned there. White cut on the inside, which I think was a mistake, and I was able to get that Atari. White descended to stop all of the black stones connecting, and so black descended and white descended. I thought at this point that black could play here, but I didn't think I was strong enough. If black played here, then I think white would play here, and these black stones would just get swallowed up. They couldn't. They're not strong enough to fight. You know, I couldn't see a good sequence for what could black do if black does something like this: white, black, white. You know, black's down to 2 liberties. It's a hopeless fight for black. I had to do something a little bit more radical here. So after that descent, I pushed once in this direction. Remember, this black group is unconditionally live. It's got its 2 eyes. It's got its 2 eyes. And so if this black group here can connect to that, it also becomes alive. So white ideally, logically, played there to stop that connection. And I made the connection because I knew that it left this cutting point, that unless white fixed it right away, then black would simply chop through there, and the sequence be, if white, I don't know, played here, then black here, white here, black there, and everything connects again. Not only does everything connect again, but suddenly this white group is dying, and the game would have just shifted from white to black. If that group dies, everything black apart from this corner connects, and black has got one single group and white is chopped. So that was pretty vital. So let's go back. So after that move, it was essential, quite rightly, that white connected. White could not afford. But now the survival of this central white group depends on the death of the black group in the corner, because it's at this point, there and there is where the 2 white groups are separated. There and there is where the white groups are separated, and there is where this white, the central white group, is separated from the outside. These are called the cutting points. So black got a free move. Black got a free move here because of white's need to go back and fix that cutting point. And now black, because this group here, this alive one is strong, these white stones are now looking vulnerable. They're short on liberties and they're short on shape. So white makes a shape, and black first. If black had played here, I think that white would have just Atari'd here, and I think black's pretty much out of options. If black does this, then I think white does something like this, and the black stones all die. So my move here was to try and disrupt white's shape. These white stones have only got 2 liberties now. I couldn't see a plan. I was finding my way in the dark. I was feeling this out, but I knew that this group was vulnerable. But this black group here was equally vulnerable. So white harned and Atari'd, killing that stone. I had to go, I can't do anything with that. There's no point. If black tries to answer here, then white will throw in there, black will take, white will take, black has to connect. This is a hiding to hell for black. So after the Hane, black pushed on that side, white took, and then black came here. This is a difficult fight. I think at this point my heart rate had gone up in the game. So white turned. I jumped to try and get some more liberties for my group, because notice that at any point, white can play here, and then black will have to play here, and then white will play here, and black's dying. So I played here to make liberties, and white pushed, and I blocked, and white turned as an Atari'd, and I connected. And white came down, and black harned, and white cut, and black came out. Black came out to give this group here extra fighting liberties. This group now has got 4 liberties to fight with. And there's this friendly stone nearby. So white blocked to stop black pushing through because of this sequence. I won't go through the sequence, too complicated. I Atari'd, white connected. And then we make this jump. Now this jump means that there's now a connected relationship between these 2 stones, and this stone, and this stone, and this stone. Don't forget, this group is still unconditionally alive because it's got 2 eyes. It's this black group, it's the weak one. This is the one that's in danger. White played here. I made shape. Making shape is a term that we use a lot in Go. It's actually giving your stones some openness, some looseness, some potential to make eyes. It's a shape move. White comes underneath to try and stop me making eye space. So I block. White descends because there is a threat of black activating this stone and shorting the liberties on the white group. I'm not going to go there. Black descended. White descended on the outside. Black took the black stone. Black is now alive. Through dogged perseverance, this black group is now alive, and remember, this black group is alive. So now the fight has shifted over to this 3rd black group in the corner and what was going on there. White pushed once, black connected. Black's got 2 eyes. Black's got an eye where that dead white stone is, and plenty of eye space here. White pushed into black's territory. I knew at this point, because I'm counting liberties madly, this white group has got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 liberties. Okay? the white group has got 5 liberties. This black group has got 1, 2, 3, 4. We can't count this as a liberty or this as a liberty because white can take those 2 stones at any time and then black will have to connect. So it's not an active liberty. So in terms of the liberty race, black's got 4, white's got 5, white wins, game over. White pushed. I blocked. White honeyed. I backed off. White pushed. I blocked. White pushed. And at that point, I thought I don't have to answer that move. That's not a sente. I can make this move. Now notice what's just happened. This black group has now got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 liberties. And the white group here has still got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Black has got a liberty more than white, and that means that this fight is now deadly for white. So I ignored, and white came here. And I took one of the edge liberties away. And white threw in, forcing me to take and preventing me from directly pushing at 1. Because if I pushed at 1, it would self-Atari and white would come back and take me. So white took an outside liberty. Let's count again. How many liberties does white now have? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. How many liberties does black have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm not counting this one because white can take it at any point. I'm 1 liberty ahead. So black plays there. And white takes another liberty. What's the liberty count now? You should be able to do it. Black has got 1, 2, 3, 4, and white has got 1, 2, 3. The game's still on for black. Black connects, and the connecting means that black can now push and isolate this group here. So white connects, but then black descends, count liberties again. Black has got 1, 2, 3. White has got 4, 5, 1, only 1, 2. Number 4 and number 5. Black's still ahead on the liberty count. White takes, but black takes back. Didn't make any difference to the liberty count. Black has still got 3. White has got 2. I'm so engrossed in this fight at the moment, I'm not thinking about anything else. I'm absolutely fixated on this fight, thinking, wow, if this comes off, if I manage to kill just this white group here, then maybe the game is close. Maybe the game is close because white ends up with no points in that side, and I've got points because notice that this group is already dead. And these stones are dead. You know, we're back in the game. The game is on. So white pushes here. And I block and make a bamboo joint. And white pushes there. The bamboo joint, by the way, is that shape. White pushes there. And I block again and make another bamboo joint. And suddenly, and I hadn't seen this, the full horror of what has happened to white just dawns on white. Because white plays this move and then resigns the game. And the reason white's resigned the game is that the death of this group, and it is dead because it only has 2 liberties. Let's count them. 1, 2. Meanwhile, this black group has got 3 liberties. So that means that this black group's alive. We know that this black group is alive. We now know, because it's all connected through the diagonal and the bamboo joint, that this black group is alive. And that means that this white group And remember, this fight goes all the way back to the original cut. All of this, that is all dead. And of course, these stones are also dead. So that's where we were, and at that point white resigned. I was stunned. I mean, after this move, I didn't see the implications. That this white group here, just clean up all of this stuff because it'll make it easy to see the stones. And get rid of these. There we go. The white group only had one eye. White can only make one eye here, which means it's all dead, and so everything on that side of the board is dead. And so that's the game. I hope that was entertaining. It was an amazing fight for me. I was obviously very happy to win the game. I played at the absolute edge of my ability. You know, one of the great mantras that my friend Toby from Leicester says to me is sometimes better to play good moves that you don't understand than bad ones you do. And it took me a long time to understand what he meant, but I think I do understand it. Sometimes you just have to go for the stone that's the right move, and it will get you out of trouble. So that's it. That was my game this morning. I'd barely had my first cup of coffee when I played that one, but it was an exciting, thrilling game of Go, and it is one of the reasons I still love this game and have loved it for years. If I turn on the AI review, we can see in the graph over here that at the start of the game, up until this point, black was winning simply because by benefit of the handicap. From that point on, white was winning all the way through. At this point, white was 60 points ahead on the board. Black began to crawl some back after this mistake by white, this mistake in the lower right, and then suddenly at this point it began to look like black might make a comeback to the point at which it was overwhelmingly black. Black's 50 points ahead on the board because of the death, and it was a resigned game. So there we go, folks. Thanks for listening. I hope that's interesting, insightful. As I say, games like this are the reason I play Go. Thanks again. See you soon. Bye for now.